volcano tormenting Guatemala has claimed dozens of lives, and emergency crews are scrambling to keep the death toll from rising.
The Fuego volcano roared back to life over the weekend. 62 people now confirmed dead. Have a look at that video. We still don't know how many might be missing in all of that.
A river of lava and blankets of smoke and ash, burying entire communities there and catching millions off guard. These images that you're looking at are almost apocalyptic as people try to outrun that menacing cloud behind them.
And it travels at extraordinary speed as well. This volcano west of Guatemala's capital is one of Central America's most active, and while it seems to have quietened down for now, the danger far from over.
Alright, Shalom. First, I'd like to start by saying all praise to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth with sincerity. Now, as you can see, this is a volcano that erupted in Guatemala. You know, and the Guatemalans is Zebulun according to the Bible. So, the Lord jacking them up, man, because, it's prophecy. We in them times now. And, I think they worship a lot of Catholic religion and stuff, man. They going off over there too, man. Just like the rest of the Israelites worshiping idols and stuff. But, the Lord jacking them up, man, because that's the time we're living in. So I'm going to start with this scripture. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 18. It says, and it said, behold, hold on, Slakia. Verse 17. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 17. And it happened that when I had heard it, I stood up upon my feet and hearkened, and behold, there was a voice that spake, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters. And it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. Right, now that's Yahushai, because it's the voice of many waters. And this is Yahushai visiting this place, man. By way of stuff like this. These volcanoes erupting, man. Once the volcano erupts, it brings fire. And a lot of times these volcanoes be erupting because of earthquakes and stuff, man. All right, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, and this is a sign, man. Watching for these prophecies or watching for these watching these news channels is you measuring the time. It says, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, right? Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, right? Now, like I said, earthquakes cause these volcanoes to erupt majority of the time, man. And if I'm not mistaken, I read an article that actually said they felt an earthquake first before this erupted, man. But, yeah, that's just a little note, man. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Right, so all this was prophesied and spoke of in the beginning, man. For like as all that is made in the world had the beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. And this is how we know that we at the end of the world, so to speak, which the end of the world really is just the end of Esau's kingdom. Esau being the white man, And Esau Esau owned what? America, Russia, Germany, France. So all them kingdoms are going to come down, man. Yahushua said it's going to take many crowns, man. You know, so not only is these white people going to come down, these other nations are going to come down right along with these Edomite devils. It says, yeah, I'm ended off with that. I could have kept it going, but bring out this scripture. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 28. It says, there be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. At the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire, right? So these volcanoes cause a lot of fires and hail and famine, and you know they might be going through famine over there, man. You know, a lot of the stores and a lot of them towns that was burned down, you know, people that may have survived that they couldn't reach at the point in time, you know, didn't have any food to eat. It says in death, and there's a lot of deaths. They said 62, but I know it's more than this, man. There's another, they still updating it. It said all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. Right, so a lot of them Guatemalans, which was Zebulun, were wicked. They got a lot of gangs and stuff. Zebulun act just like Judah. There's no difference, man. They worshiping idols. They're gang banging. You know, they doing all types of shit over there, man. It says they shall rejoice in his commandments, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. When their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. Right. And them spirits is talking about the angels, man. The spirits that's created for vengeance is talking about the angels, man. Ezekiel 9, verses 1. I think it ends at like 5 or 4 or 5. But explain that to you. This is Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 1. It says, he cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. Now, that's talking about the angels, man. The angels have destroying weapons in their hands, man. It says, and behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the Most High, the power of Israel, was gone. Was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with the linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, which represents the Israelites, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Right, and that's talking about the prophets. Those who woke up to this truth and don't like the wickedness that's going on in society, man. That's why we out there on the highways and byways, because we sighing and crying, man. That's why we putting these videos up on the internet, because we sighing and crying. It says, and to the others he said in mine hearing, and that mark represents the mark of exemption, man, from what's to come, the destruction, man. I think the Hebrew word was tawah. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, tawah. Let me see. Oh, give me 1 second. All right. It says, back to verse 4. It says, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Smite means to kill. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient, which is the elders, men which were before the house. Right? So a lot of these deaths that's happening over there in Guatemala is because the Lord is sanctioning hits on these people. And these hits can get carried out by way of a spirit being the fire, or people getting shot or killed, or what have you will. But as you can see, the Lord used this volcano to kill all these people, which the angels sanctioned that, man. The Lord sanctioned it and the angels carried it out. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and play the video in the lesson.
Fleeing for their lives, many on foot. Residents living near Guatemala's volcano of fire say they were caught off guard. In one village, a woman covered in ash tells emergency workers she ran as lava poured into cornfield. In another nearby town, a destroyed...
She looked like she barely escaped, man. Our people are being overweight and all of that, man. A lot of them didn't escape because they don't adhere to the dietary laws, man.
Mother tells of her escape and her desperate search for her children.
I left home and walked along the alley to go to the shops when I suddenly realized the lava was coming down and seeping through the plots of land, the highway, and down next to the water tank. It came down into the alley and up. It came right up to us. We managed to escape through the San Miguel estate. I only managed to find 2 children alive last night, but my 2 female daughters. My grandson and my son are missing, together with my entire family.
Amateur videos show people racing away from what's called pyroclastic material, a flow of ash and lava particles and vapor. Such clouds are often extremely hot and they move extremely quickly, sometimes as fast as a commercial airliner, and they can reach for kilometers away from the volcano. Emergency workers face a roadblock of steaming lava and debris, carefully skirting the flow as they search for survivors and victims. Rescuers worked into the night, recovering some people with severe injuries and a number of bodies of those who were not able to outrun the deadly eruption. Sometimes using heavy construction equipment to clear the debris. With daylight, they carefully sift through steaming debris, hoping to recover the bodies of some of those who did not escape, all the while being threatened with more activity from the volcano, working under difficult and dangerous conditions.
The challenge we've faced is that the volcano has been active and also working with this kind of material, which is extremely hot. That makes the work of rescuers even more difficult because we are talking about temperatures of about 30 degrees Celsius, still felt on the ground while we work.
But more volcanic activity on Monday sends people fleeing again. Residents run down the street shouting, "The lava is coming." Emergency workers also forced to evacuate the area. Thousands have now been displaced from this area. Emergency shelters set up where authorities are working to help people find loved ones. Rescuers will have to continue to search for the missing and the dead, as experts say the threat from the volcano of fire continues.
Last hour, we spoke to a volcanologist from Concord University and asked what, if anything, can one do to survive a sudden eruption?
Get out of valleys. These things usually flow down valleys. They can overtop the edges of them as well, but the most dangerous areas around this volcano are the valleys.
That's good advice. I'm wondering, you're a volcanologist, is it possible to predict, because this has been a very active volcano, it has activity routinely, but not like this. Is it something that can be predicted, or is this just Mother Nature at work?
Sometimes, but it's very complicated because each volcano has its own personality. So every volcano has a different lead up to an eruption. And while they give us signs, it's not going to tell us necessarily when it's going to erupt, how big the eruption is going to be, or how long the eruption is going to last.
The Fuego volcano stole some attention from Hawaii's Kilauea, whose dramatic eruptions have captivated the world for weeks. Thankfully, no one has been killed there.
Or at least not yet, and hopefully it stays that way. And that's because Kilauea's mode of destruction is lava, like we've been seeing now for weeks. Fuego, on the other hand, unleashed a mix of ash, gases, and rock, which tends to be more dangerous because it cannot be outrun.
Kilauea's lava, however, is still swallowing homes there. Scott McLean shows us where it's heading.
We have confirmation that the lava is reaching the ocean, and this means two things. First off, it means that everyone on the south side of this part of the Big Island, where you see those trees, where you see those oceanfront homes and cottages, they are essentially cut off from the rest of the island. On one side, they have the Pacific Ocean. On the other side, they have what is essentially a river of molten lava. And this white smoke that you see, that is a sign of where it's entering. It's lava haze you're seeing, or laze. It is a potentially deadly mixture of gases, hydrogen or hydrochloric acid, steam, and tiny bits of glass as well. It is really a nasty mix that you don't want to be around. You can also see that dark smoke there over to the right side. Those are houses burning, structures. Keep in mind, this is an entire neighborhood. This is the Kapoho Vacation Land area, and there are several hundred homes, several hundred cottages. All of them most likely will be in the way of the lava at some point, because this entire stretch is about a half a mile wide, and really it has nowhere else to go but through these homes. We know that there are about a dozen people. There were about a dozen people over the weekend who were stranded on this south side. 3 of them were rescued, and so now there may be about 9, but there is no water on that side. There is no power on that side. There's no cell phone service. There's no landline service, and so there's no way to communicate with these people or to know exactly where they are. Authorities, they're doing regular flights over the area to look for any signs of distress, smoke signals. Maybe someone has written SOS on their roof or on their lawn, any signs of looking for help. But for the meantime, those people are cut off and they really have nowhere to go.
Oh, Scott McLean reporting there. Guatemala, of course, is a different kind of volcano and a different kind of threat.
And even though Fuego appears to have calmed down, at least for now, another dangerous problem may be looming. Tom Sater is here with more on that Guatemala volcano, which we now know is a
stratovolcano. Yeah, it traps pressure. In Hawaii, it's called a shield volcano. As you mentioned, it's more about lava. But the thing is about this, even though they may have another eruption, and probably will, the big threat right now in the next, I'd say, 48 hours is rainfall. Because we've got a tropical system that's developing off the coast, and with all that debris and that ash, it could really cause some problems.
It's like it turns into concrete, doesn't it?
After it flows down further into villages. So that's the concern. Let's talk about this, because many are wondering, why did we have the earthquakes and the tremors like in Hawaii to give us some sort of indication this was going to happen? Every volcano, as we heard, is different, and that's not always the case. However, this has been active since 2002. It's been continuously erupting since the beginning of 2017. So they've been through many eruptions, not on this scale. So you're wondering, well, why are they still even around the area if it's been continuous erupting? You can see it on satellite. See that little brown plume? I mean, for it to show up on a satellite, that is so far away, it was massive. And that's an interesting note. Now, since the year 1580, we've had 79 eruptions. The worst was in 1974. But what we do not see in Hawaii are these pyroclastic plumes going down the side of the summit. And you can even see now, a day and a half later, after, of course, the eruption, what these are looking like. I can even show it to you, and we'll get in a little closer with Google Earth. There are several in the areas. This is one of the most active in all of Central America. And by looking at Google Earth, and you can see where Fuego is here, notice the old scar marks, the old pyroclastic scar marks. And notice down just below the screen here is a town called El Rodeo. That's the one that was destroyed. But by looking at these old scars, you get an idea of what the next problem may be. Let me show you some video and you get an idea of what they're dealing with. It just came in about an hour ago. When you look at some of this debris, and of course not just the ash, but all the boulders and everything that had come down the mountainside in toward these villages, this is what can be a problem when you add a lot of water. When we go back and look at the graphics, here's our concern. Last week we just had our first named tropical system in the Atlantic. This could be the first named in the East Pacific. Look how far away it is from Guatemala. So you're like, well, that's not a concern. It's about a 90% chance of development pushing up to the north and the northwest toward the coast, to say off of Puerto Vallarta. But it's going to pull in moisture on the trail end of this, and therefore with the high terrain, it will indicate much more rainfall totals than you would expect. When you get areas that are going to get 100, maybe 150 at that high rate, those are the lahars. That's the debris that'll flow down in from, of course, the volcano. So that is a big concern. When you got rain in the forecast and thunderstorms, Bianca and Michael, every day for the next couple of days, that's our next threat, the immediate threat right now.
Right. So another thing they said about this volcano was that the people got warned early, or they heard the volcano, shaking and making noise, or there was some type of warning beforehand to where these people could have escaped, but they didn't leave. And I forgot what I did with the document, but basically these people were sacrificed. These people were sacrificed. That was the moral of the story, that these people were sacrificed. There wasn't either enough warning for them or something to that effect to where they didn't flee, and they waited to the last minute to flee or to set off the warnings, something to that effect, and they were sacrificed, man. It was something I was reading, when this first happened. But hey, it's the judgment of Yahweh Shema Shai, man. So with that being said, all praise to Yahweh by Shema Shai, double honor to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that stood in truth and sincerity. Shalom.